Hello, I'm Emily Greene, and I'm a grade 11. I used to think my work was too sporadic. I feel like there's this underlying paranoia that art needs to be cohesive, whether that's visually or conceptually. But once you grasp a sense of who you are or what your purpose might be, the work you're naturally drawn to make suddenly shares one thing in common: the artist. I've found my objective has been to materialize something that invokes something internal, to make these internalized feelings tangible. That is why I'm focusing on the concept of sensory processing. Perception is based on the sensory data we pick up in a physical environment. When we touch, look, hear, smell, or taste something, our conscious develops it as an experience. These experiences change who we are and our perspectives in alignment to our memories and attachments. Although it's often overlooked, we all develop individual concepts of reality. As our perspectives and levels of sensory observation may not align, it is part of what makes us individuals and makes us perceive art in different ways. It can change the way we adapt and react in our environment. These are photos of my mom and her sisters after each had left the farm they grew up in Peterborough. It was an area that had been inhabited by my family's farming lineage since the 1840s. For my mom, this was the moment her life started, a moment pertinent to my own relative existence. Then soon after, her sisters followed. You can only imagine what kind of imprint this left on the life that was expected for them. In 2020, I printed these photos in cyanotype on the surface of silk dupioni. It was a way to materialize that version of themselves into my own comprehension. This series starts off severely distorted and gradually gains clarity by the third. The material was remnant of my mom's career in custom wedding gown design. The parts of the weave that could only be described as knots make the material incredibly imperfect and unplanned for. It leans against the grains of one's natural expectations of silk. This makes up for the foundation for the change to come. The process of cyanotype was something my mom had taught me when I was young. I would collect leaves and branches to press on the surface of the material as the sun developed the Prussian blue negative. It was invented in 1842 and was commonly used to make blueprints. In other words, it was used as a method of planning. Ultimately, the negative orders the sun in a specific direction to cause a reaction in the mixture of potassium ferrocyanide, ammonium ferricitrate, and water. Throughout my young life, my connection to the physical realm was through my tactile senses. Feeling the material and draping it around myself was how I adapted to my life. It makes sense that my main medium is textile. Even still, it had always been a struggle for me. When I make something, the details I put into my work are decided upon the process of feeling the intensity of the cloth. Sort of the opposite of sensory observation. Instead of reacting to my work reacts to me. There's a certain intimacy to the material when molding it to its potential form. Ergo, it becomes a part of me and I of it. This was my great-grandma. During the 20s and 30s, my family lived in Iraq during my great-grandfather's missions with the Secret Service. Marguerite pays tribute to her own exquisitely developed taste adapted to her life in the Middle East. These are the pieces I did for the fashion show. Each of them were drawn from the image of my great-grandmother, and they are a blend of the Western French new look of the 20th century combined with hints of Iraqi tradition. Creating these garments was my way of communicating my underdeveloped perspective of her. I combined my own taste with what I could imagine her wearing. Familiarizing myself with her environment, her surroundings, and the clothes that touched her skin is how I get to know the world through the eyes of a woman who isn't here. Ultimately, we perceive our environment in a different place from where it's processed. A perspective can be manipulated in any such way, as it's simply a reaction through the messages sent between our physical and mental state. Translating those mental and emotional senses back into our environment is the difficult part. I guess that's why they call it art.